Igor.
Yes, master.
My tools.
Yes, master. Screwdriver. Weed puller. Hammer. Clippers. Beverage. Is it awake yet?
It's alive.
It wants to get up. We should back up, master.
Yes, let's.
It's beautiful, master.
Truly. Now, let's review.
Agreed, master. Agreed. Good evening. I am Igor. This is my master right here.
How do you do? My name is Rubystein, Dr. Rubystein.
Well, tell the audience what we just made today, Professor.
Today, we just made a recreation of this.
Oh, it don't look so real. It's almost like we bought it at the movie store.
Well, as you know, it is Halloween.
Yes, time for monsters, like werewolves and vampires.
But most of all, Frankensteins.
But Frankenstein isn't a beast or a creature. It's the creation of one scientist.
Yes, and that would be from Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. And the main character is Victor von Frankenstein.
And people always make the classic mistake of naming the creature Frankenstein for some reason.
Well, because it's named after the creator.
Yes. Did you read the book, Master?
I read passages of it.
I read the whole thing. Yes, I read much about the book. Apparently Mary Shelley, when one night was hanging out with her husband and their friend Lord Byron, they were reading German ghost stories in the mountains of Switzerland.
Yes, I quite remember that tale.
And there was this fierce lightning in the sky that inspired them to make their own horror tales.
Yes.
I think Lord Byron made the book of vampires, and Miss Mary Shelley made the book of Frankenstein, or as it's sometimes called, the modern Prometheus.
Yes.
And then later the book was, well, at first it wasn't published because a woman made it pretty much. But thanks to a very good publishing firm and her husband's goodwill, they managed to make it into a book finally around the year 1818.
And because of that, the birth of the Gothic tales were started.
Some people even think that the book was the creation of the modern days of science fiction novels.
Well, because it was.
Technically, yes. But now, Master, it is time to talk about the movie.
Yes. Frankenstein the movie came actually a few months after Dracula.
Really?
Yes, in 1931. And it was made by who would later direct The Invisible Man.
Oh, Mr. James Whale, yes.
Yes.
I remember there was a very good movie based on his life with Sir Ian McKellen playing him and Brendan Fraser was in it.
Indeed.
So the movie opens up with a little text scroll, and for some reason they put the question mark for the creature in the credits.
Well, they put it at the beginning credits.
Yes, for some reason.
But then later at the end credits, they have his name.
Ah yes, the great and powerful Boris Karloff plays the creature.
Yes. My, what to say of Boris, he was quite prestige.
Oh yes, although ironically enough, when he first got the role, he didn't quite understand it. In fact, he didn't like it all that much. Because in the script, all it had was just him making grunting noises.
Yes, it was quite demeaning.
Although in the sequel, they greatly expanded on his role, but we're not talking about the sequel, are we, Master?
No, we're talking about the first one.
And the movie opens up at the hanging scene.
Yes, indeed.
Oh, we see a criminal get hanged. And then we see the good doctor with his assistant Fritz.
Yes, in this one, he's not called Igor.
Yes, why is he not called Igor?
Because at first they didn't come up with that concept until later Bela Lugosi would do such a thing.
In 1931, the son of Frankenstein.
39.
39, yes. And Bela Lugosi came up with the classic role of Igor,
Yes.
which would inspire a John Cusack movie, and also a running gag with Marty Feldman also. You know, my cousin Igor,
Oh, yes.
pretty much. So why are they at the graveyard, Master?
They're looking for bodies to dissect.
And what body do they find?
They find a man who's hung, and also a man who was recently buried. But the one who was hung was no good, for his neck was broken.
So the brain is not working.
No.
They had to replace it with a new brain.
So, the good doctor sends Fritz to a university that he was once attending to.
Why is it that Fritz looks oddly familiar? I feel like we've seen him before.
It's because we have.
Oh yes, wasn't he the actor who played Renfield?
No.
Wait, what?
No.
Yes, he was. Fritz played Renfield, remember? In Dracula.
I thought that was a completely different actor.
No, that's the same actor, I think. He also was a reporter from the Invisible Man movie.
That is true.
Yes, that actor was very good at playing very disturbed creatures. And also reporters.
Anyways.
So they're at the place and they need a brain.
Yes, and Fritz was going to take the right brain, but was startled.
It could happen to anyone.
So, the brain that he was supposed to use was smashed, destroyed.
It was the brain of a very good, kind scientist, I believe.
It was. And unfortunately, he grabbed the wrong one.
A criminal brain. A brain with the name of Abby Normal. Oh!
No, you fool, that was in the parody of it.
Oh! I'm sorry, Master, I forget.
So he takes a criminal brain. To whom it belonged to, we have no idea.
And then we get a scene with the fiancée, Elizabeth.
Yes.
And for some reason we also get the friend character, but his name's not Henry in this one.
No, in this one, for some reason, his name is Victor.
Yes, but it's weird, because then later the good doctor's name is Henry.
That doesn't make any sense.
There was a Henry in the book, but that was Victor's best friend.
Exactly, so why they switched the names, I have no clue.
I don't know, it's a little German town where everybody speaks with a British accent for some reason.
Also, what is it with all these characters who are friends with the main character who just happen to try to put a hold on her squeeze?
It's the mustache, never trust a man with a mustache.
Pants on mustaches.
Exactly, Master. So they're concerned about Henry pretty much at his place.
And he's been denying them access for months. And so they go to his good professor.
Oh, yes, the good doctor. I forget his name, but wasn't he the guy that also did introduce us to the film?
Yes.
He does that very, very good speech about it may terrify you, it may even shock you, and all that.
Well, he was also in Dracula.
Yes, he played Van Helsing.
Yes, he did, and he was also later in The Mummy.
where he played that other professor character.
But we'll get to that another time.
So they go to him and they ask him what is going on with Hank.
So, he basically tells them that he's been conducting his own experiments outside of the university. And unfortunately, the university would not allow this because they were unethical.
They were tampering in God's domain, Master.
Indeed. So, he leads them to the good doctor.
The doctor is in the middle of experimenting on the body.
And he's not in a castle, he's actually in a bell tower.
This is a very nice looking bell tower.
Yes, and later this same laboratory would be used in Thus Parody.
Yes, in Young Frankenstein by Mel Brooks.
Please check out his work, it is wonderful.
We'll try to do a review on it later.
But for now, let us focus on the main story.
Yes.
So, the doctor and Fritz are preparing because a lightning storm is coming.
And they're using the same technology that Nikola Tesla apparently used.
Indeed. And there was a man who made these instruments and would later be used even still today in such movies.
Give or take, yes, because they're still creepy, Master.
Exactly.
So, Henry gets the machine ready to awaken the monster.
But then, his friends arrive.
Mostly it's just the good doctor and his best friend Henry, right? Victor, I mean.
But also the doctor is there as well.
Yes, of course, Master. And so, they're going to try and stop Hank at his work.
But then when he is called crazy,
Oh, he doesn't like being go crazy, does he, Master?
I can hardly relate. He shows them what they think is crazy. And thus they've made life.
Yes, and we get some electricity going through the body.
Exactly.
And eventually, a hand starts to move.
And thus it begins.
And the other's the most famous line of the movie, pretty much.
It's alive.
It's alive! And he also brings up a line which unfortunately got this movie into a lot of hot water, unfortunately.
Yes, indeed.
It's the line where he says that he compares himself to God.
Well, kind of.
And it was around the time of the Hays Code, so you weren't allowed to say that.
Fucking Hays Code.
Yes, pretty much, Master. So, they lead the monster straight to the table where they try to calm Hank down.
Exactly.
But then eventually they take it slowly to get the monster up, right? And what do they do when they get him up? They basically make him walk, right?
They try to make him walk. I think something happens.
Oh yes, Fritz comes in with a torch to scare him, pretty much.
Yes, because Fritz in this is unfortunately a dick.
Yes, unfortunately, I would never do that.
Better not.
So they scare the monster with the torch, because as we all know, fire bad.
So, what happens instead is that the monster is put back.
They strap him to a table, they strap him into a jail cell, right?
Exactly.
And as they're discussing what to do with the beast, Fritz comes in again like a total asshole and tortures him with the torch again. And the whip.
Yes. And while this is happening, the father of the good doctor is wondering where he is. Because unfortunately, a wedding should be taking place.
Yes, and the doctor's father is a very powerful baron.
Yes.
Baron von Frankenstein.
Yes. And then the Burgermeister.
Oh yes, Burgermaster. It's either a man who's in charge of a village or a man in charge of a burger stand. It's probably the other one.
Probably.
Yes.
So, everyone is wondering when does the wedding take place. And like a total idiot, he brought everyone already prepared. But
Yeah.
the Baron's like, there is no.
There is no wedding and everybody's mad pretty much. And you got to be careful, because if I know anything about villagers, they like to go into angry mob modes.
Yes, they do.
Mm.
So, The Baron has had enough of his son's foolish behavior and goes to investigate himself.
With his fiancée, Elizabeth.
Indeed. And while this is happening, unfortunately, Fritz has passed away.
The monster murdered him, strangled him with his own whip.
Hung him.
Pretty much. How did he do that? Like, the monster just managed to get the whip up to make a little loose thing?
Not sure.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, the monster has only been in the darkness of this bell tower. He's never seen light. And when he has seen light, he's very fascinated. Until, of course, Fritz tortured him with fire.
Yes, and the good doctor hasn't had time to train the monster. So, they don't really know what to do with the monster.
And unfortunately, the professor tries to warn the good doctor, and in fact, that the brain that was used was a criminal brain.
I knew it. We never should have trusted Abby normal.
He's still not believing this, of course. But unfortunately, he's running out of time. And his father and his fiancée have arrived.
And he's in a bit of a fainting spell moment.
Well, of course, he's been working day and night, barely eating, sleeping.
He's exhausted himself.
Unfortunately, yes. So, unfortunately, he is taken back.
And while he's being taken back, the doctor's mentor promises to kill the monster.
Exactly. But does it very poorly.
I know, he doesn't notice the giant hand right behind his neck apparently.
Or even sense or feel it. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, so he's strangled to death off screen pretty much.
Which is kind of interesting because I've never seen this character die. So to see him die is rather interesting.
To be fair though, he's not even in the book also.
That's not good.
Pretty much. There's a lot that changes from the book I'm not going to bring up.
So, it's wedding time.
Yes, he's finally going to get married to Elizabeth. And the town is all celebrating.
It's about fucking time. And we have a rather poor dolly shot. It's really shaky.
It was 1931. They didn't know how to perfect it yet.
While everyone is getting ready, we cut to a father with his daughter.
Maria.
Yes, and she's holding some beautiful flowers and a very adorable cat.
Oh my goodness, little kitty is so cute.
Yes, coochie. But unfortunately, while the father goes away, the monster arrives.
He's never had a friend before.
Yes.
And this little girl wants to be his friend.
It is a very sweet moment until, unfortunately, when he runs out of flowers to throw into the water, he throws her instead and drowns her.
Oh no, he's murdered a child now.
This was a very controversial scene.
It even still is today.
In fact, there have been many copies where this scene was not included.
At least not until 1982, pretty much.
Exactly.
Wow, that's almost like 70 years that movie had to go without that scene.
Exactly. And I'm glad that we were able to witness it. No matter how horrific it was.
Speaking of horrific, we then cut back to the little wedding thing at the castle, the Baron's castle.
Yes. Everybody's celebrating, drinking, being merry.
They even give wine to the servants.
Even though the Baron is a bit of an asshole.
It's only the cheap stuff, apparently. I like cheap stuff.
Of course you do. Anyways. Unfortunately, the monster is at the castle.
They hear him, or at least Henry hears him.
And for God's sake and reason, they excuse him from being to the attic, to the basement. And apparently not in the fiancé's room.
But how? The monster doesn't have the ability to teleport.
Exactly, so how could you excuse him from going from up to down? Anyways.
But then the monster sees Elizabeth.
And honestly, I can't blame her.
She is very hot, isn't she? Oh!
Behave yourself.
Yes, master.
So, unfortunately, this is the scene where they really should have killed her off.
I know, they don't kill her off. How is the Frankenstein supposed to learn his lesson, though?
He doesn't. He simply doesn't.
At least not until the sequel.
No. Let's not get into it. Anyways, fortunately, she has a fainting spell.
Did the monster not even touch her?
I think he tried to, but I don't know.
So he goes away, and it's around this time that the Maria's father comes into town with gold in his dead goddaughter's corpse.
Yes. And he marches her through the town, which everyone else witnesses, and gets very upset about. Where they go to the Burgermeister himself, where they demand revenge.
Yes, he will find the Frankenstein and make a burger out of him. Oh!
I swear to God, I don't know where I'm going with
Because it must
Get off me.
Oh!
So, we now have an angry mob.
Like every good Frankenstein film should have.
Yes, torches, pitchforks, and the whole merry gang.
Do they not bring guns?
They have some guns and some bloodhounds.
So they go up into the mountains to find the monster.
Which
In a
for some-
very poor backdrop, unfortunately.
Which unfortunately, for some reason, they are not blaming Frankenstein for this.
I mean, in all honesty, shouldn't he get the blame?
Yes, because he created this monstrosity.
Yes. But then the monster finds Frankenstein and he beats him up a little.
Yes, and he carries his unconscious body to a windmill.
Oh, yes, the windmill. And they set it on fire, don't they?
Yes,
Those were very flammable back in the day.
they had a lot of flammable materials inside.
And then the monster is trapped inside, while the professor jumps out pretty much.
No, he's thrown out.
And he doesn't die?
He doesn't die.
How?
I don't know what's wrong with this movie. Anyways,
And then it ends and we find out that Boris Karloff was the creature the whole time.
yes, they finally add his fucking name into it.
Pretty much, Master, pretty much.
But other than that, thus ends the story. But we find out that Elizabeth and Frank are alive.
Or hanged in this case.
Hank in this case, whatever his fucking name is. I'm just gonna call him Victor.
Okay, Master, okay.
So, they're both alive, and his father has one celebratory drink with the servants.
Yes.
And then it ends right there. I don't know what the hell that was about. I hate how these films ended.
Well, I mean, if you want a better resolution, there's always the sequel.
We'll talk about it later.
Of course, Master, of course.
But let's go to the conclusion. Now, what's to say about this film?
Well, it's a good idea, it just wasn't portrayed very well, Master.
With that set in mind, though, it did expand what we think of Frankenstein.
The book's a bit better, though, right?
Yes, without the book, we would not have the movie, thus we would not have the monster itself.
And you could say that Frankenstein became a bit of a pop culture icon, also.
Of course he has.
He inspired so much, Master, including Frankenweenie.
Yes, that would also be a topic for another day.
I like to think that the movie was sort of like an allegory on bad parenting, almost.
I would say it is, but it's also what happens when you play God.
Perhaps, maybe it would have turned out better if Frankenstein had taken the time to nurture, feed, and take care of his creation.
Exactly, like a good parent should.
Exactly, instead of just abandoning him to the cold whims of the world.
Which is completely unfair. So, with that said in mind, ratings. How would you rate this film?
Me, Master.
Yes.
Well, I like this movie well enough. It's got a very moody atmosphere, which I like. And the camera work for the most part is okay, except for the dolly shots. But I think James Whale was just getting his foot in the door here, and he would later improve himself with other films to come afterwards. So I like to think that this movie was just a stepping stone to greater things. So I had to give this film a 7 out of 10. Just a hunch, if you know what I'm saying, mister. Oh!
You and your puns.
Zuh.
Yes, get off me.
Oh!
Now, how would I rate this?
What would you say, master?
Well, I will say this, I will be fair. This film, without it, we would not have the concept on the consequences of playing God, and what we would consider one of the most popular icons in all of the world.
Pretty much, master.
And Like Dracula, Frankenstein would also be one of the most popular universal monsters. So I will be fair with the controversy that is behind it, but then again, I love good controversy. I'll have to also give it a 7 out of 10.
Pretty good, Master. So what can the good people do now that they've watched this movie?
They can leave a comment down below to recommend anything for the future.
And they can share this with their friends.
Absolutely.
Can they also hit the like button and the subscribe button and the bell for notification?
Yes, that would be most excellent of them. And they can also check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
And they have more films coming out on World Builder Studios and on Silversmith Productions.
Absolutely. So go ahead and check all of that out. And until next time, this is the Good Doctor
And his assistant, or her assistant.
signing out.
Ooh, we should probably get ready for the next experiment, Doctor.
That's...
Yes, Master, we should.
Come along.
Yes, Master.